here is Mulan.
Nick and Lau Adventures!
Hi! We have approximately, well, it was 30 minutes. We're going to make it 30 minutes. We have about 30 minutes before we have to get going. But I really want some pasta. And you know who else really loves pasta? It's my wife's cousin, Mae Mae. And what her favorite pasta I've ever made her is probably the only one I've ever made her, which is probably one of the easiest, not really, most technical pastas I make. It's one of the most popular pastas you find at most Italian restaurants, and it is delicious. It's literally 2 ingredients and some pasta. So, what is this pasta, you ask? In Tagalog, one of the words never mind, I'm not gonna go there. We are going to make cheese and pepper pasta, also known as Cacio and Pepe. So, first thing we need to do is boil our water. We're using fresh pasta today because that's really what's going to make a big difference here. So when you use fresh pasta, it takes way less time. It's literally going to cook in about a minute and a half. I went with an angel hair. You can use a spaghetti, a tonarelli. Actually, I like to use short pastas if I'm using dry pastas. They're much better for sharing. So we're going to boil pasta on the stove over here so I can use this one for actually finishing it. I'll do that. So traditionally, Cacio Pepe is made with cheese, obviously pepper. Traditionally they use olive oil. I'm using high fat content butter. Next we're going to grate our cheese ahead of time. Gives us a little bit of time to chat about pasta. Now, if you don't have a microplane, you more than likely have a grater like this guy, maybe a little bit smaller, usually covered in plastic or handles. Use the smallest setting that you have, or even this guy over here, so it's nice and thin instead of chunky boys on the side. But I highly recommend getting a microplane. And we're just going to go in here like this. Ew. When you're making this dish, you need to think about the fact that it's literally, 1, 2, okay, let's say 3 ingredients plus pasta and water. You can use a little bit extra salt if you like, but it's not necessary because there's quite a bit of salt in Parmesan cheese as it is, as well as naturally occurring MSG. Yes, there's MSG in your Parmesan cheese. If you buy the pre-grated nasty stuff, like the American stuff, it's actually even worse, and it tends to carry other things that aren't even cheese. Because we're making a dish that only has a couple of ingredients, you want to use the highest quality ingredients you can get. True King Parmigiano Reggiano. Granted, I could have bought really fancy olive oil, as well as toasting your peppercorns before you put it in your grinder, and freshly grinding your own pepper. It makes a huge difference. This product was locally made, and I'm pretty sure it was made within this week. You can make it yourself if you have a KitchenAid stand mixer. There's a pasta attachment out there. Pasta is a really simple dough recipe. Get yourself an attachment and roll it yourself, cut it yourself. It makes a huge difference. Now, I'm not saying you can't use dry pasta. There's nothing wrong with dry pasta. Different pastas, different applications. You may be wondering, why so much cheese? Trust me, you're gonna want the cheese. That's probably enough for this one portion. So we're gonna season this pasta water to where it tastes like the ocean. If it tastes like the ocean, you're ready. I said you didn't have to use salt in your sauce. That's because this is where your salt and your sauce is coming from. Each step is critical in making this correct because it's such a minimal ingredient dish, it requires more finesse. If you're going to use butter, I highly recommend using European butters that are almost a standard of carrying a higher fat percentage. Also, if you can, get the grass-fed butter. The color will be a deeper yellow. The flavor, you'll be able to notice the difference, especially in a dish that's so minimalistic. So, while our water is almost ready to boil, I'm actually going to steal a little bit of it. Put some in the pan. We can start making our sauce, believe it or not. So we're going to take half of our stick of butter, add it to our water, and let those come together. Have it on a medium-high. Now that our water is boiling, taking our pasta, Make sure it's not clumped together, because that's one thing you don't want. Make sure you can get each individual strand separated. And this isn't going to take very long at all. Now in a restaurant we have a pasta boiler, which is a thing which has 6 baskets. And you can actually save the water, which has all that nice pasta starch, which helps make this sauce a lot easier to make. But while your pasta is going, it shouldn't take long. Lots of fresh cracked pepper in your sauce. I'd say about 20 cracks. And I'm talking about full cracks. It's been about 30-45 seconds. The pasta's looking there. So we don't want this all the way cooked. But about 90% cooked, maybe 80% cooked. We'll strain it. Reserve a little bit of that water. We're going to plop that right in our pan. Add our remaining little bit of water just in case. So at this point we're going to actually add more butter and a little bit more water. We want just enough for it to come together. Now I can see the butter and the water are actually emulsified. You're taking 2 different liquids that don't normally mix and mixing them. It's called an emulsification. I'm going to add my cheese. About half. I'm going to say this once, but I probably shouldn't for the internet. If it sounds like wet sex, it's ready. I'm going to add a little bit.
That is censored.
That's what Chef Aris used to say. Kill the heat, grab yourself a fancy bowl, or a fancy plate, one or the other. Give it a quick toss. Kind of bring it to the edge of the pan, so it's all sitting in one spot. Kind of guide it into the middle. One more cracked pepper, the remaining of your cheese. As long as your sauce isn't broken, there's your Cacio and Pepe. I rarely make this for you.
Dude, I love you. Thank you. Super thank you, dude.
Just sideways? What's this?